So in this session, I'll talk about the completed chapters, and also this table of contents, and how to use this graph for those who have access to it, the ones who bought the book, or are who got the believer plan. Um, so if you have access to this, you just go to there's a start page here, which is the table of contents. And essentially this talks about this particular graph and how we could how you could use this. Um, this is essentially an experiment in working with the garage door open. You will have access to the drafts here, as well as the completed chapters. You could see here the status of the chapters. Some of them have been drafted, and some are completed. So I'll be working on this, and you will see them as they are completed, and you will also have access to all the drafts. I don't know if it's interesting to you, but this is this graph is essentially my work space. Um, if you want, you could export the what you call this the completed chapters, or even the entire graph if you want. And then also you could make use of a table here, or a page here for what you call this for giving feedback. We're also using Slack right now. Unfortunately, I couldn't access it at this point. It seems to be down for me, at least. And then if you're going to create blocks in this page, it would be great if you could tag them in community, so I could keep track of the blocks you make, the feedback you give, and all that. Would really appreciate your feedback on this book. So I'm writing this as we speak. And yesterday, we also had the same session for Asia and EMEA, and I get great feedback from that. That's why we initially had like a Pomodoro session where we were silent and people would read the chapters. And the feedback was that it's better if I give this overview, and then you could read the chapters by yourself some other time. And yeah, so just visit this page. Before we move on to the all this to the first chapters, Tomo, Ashwin, and Chris, any questions?
No.
None for me.
None right now.
All right, cool. So the first chapter really is on this is essentially like the reason why I'm writing this. I felt that this was valuable information. I'm using Room for project management, and project management a has given me a lot of value, this particular process. And it's essentially bringing ideas to reality. Like for instance, during the pandemic, I felt I needed to do something to contribute. That was an idea back in May last year. Now it's a reality. This project where we brought a genetic sequencer here in the Philippines. It's going to be the first time any organism is going to be sequenced here. So I use project management for that. I use project management for my business as well. So it's been pretty useful, and I want to share that. So when I discovered this, I was in corporate tech. I was working in PNG, and later on in HP. We were implementing financial software, And this was basically the standard there. And then later on, I use this for business and I use it for personal things as well, volunteer projects. And the main thing really right now is like running multiple projects at the same time. And this allowed me to, um, make those things happen, even though I'm not a natural at organizing things. So maybe if you go through this graph, you will see how messy my thinking is. So this gave me a sort of framework, a way of systematically, um, you know, going through the execution and the planning of the project. And in terms of putting or note taking, this gave me like like a pre-made framework where I could place, the which information goes where in the project. And really, this is like how I view my before and after. I learned professional project management. In the past, it was just like one big, blob of work, project management. And after I learned these tools and this framework, so I could now see them as different, what you call this, um, aspects of the work. So it's more um, manageable because you're looking at it at the atomic level. And yeah, this is also a tried and tested way of doing projects. I'm sure there are other frameworks out there, like Prince is the one used in by the UK government, and I guess a lot of project managers also use that. The one I'm using is from the Project Management Institute, and what I'm sharing here are the tools which I found to be most useful in my practice. And also, I found that this is a less stressful way of doing projects because I know that I'm doing it the right way. I've covered all the bases, and it's like it's just there in my notes. It's documented somewhere, so I don't need to always carry these things in my head. So that allows me to run multiple projects at a time. So I can focus on one project for this week, for instance, and then I'm assured that I'm forgetting the other projects. They're just there, and I could focus on them once I have the time. So that is uh, that is chapter one. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I have a question. How exactly do you define a project is one question, and then second question is there a certain type of work that project management doesn't work out well for? And in particular, I'm thinking of like more research oriented kind of things where you don't necessarily know where you're going perfectly,
Yeah.
at least.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So the main thing that defines a project is that there's a beginning and an end, and we could divide the world of work into two kinds: the operations and projects. So operations management is its own discipline, it's its own domain, and project management really is like things that start and are that it will end. So for instance, creating you know um, construction, organizing a party, implementing a new business. um, you mentioned what are the if there are projects which these tools are not appropriate for. That's essentially what I tackle in um, the second part. So one kind of project which these tools are not appropriate for is really like like what I call deep work versus expansive work. Expansive work is like you have a lot of components, different kinds of work to make the project a reality. While deep work, for instance, writing or coding, is like you're just doing the same thing, a similar kind of work every day, and that's the main kind of work there. Also, uh, there's also um, for exploratory projects, um, this sort of works, but there are other specialized tools for those kinds of projects. For instance, in software, for instance, I don't use Agile because most of my projects are not software. But for software, it's a specialized way of managing that kind of project because the cost of changing the output is almost zero. So it's a lot of iteration and testing. There's also another. I use another framework as well for instance, um, figuring out or finding new business models. It's called lean startup. It's called evidence based entrepreneurship. So in that case, it's I use these tools just to sort of plan out the activities that I need to do to discover what I need to discover. Um, for instance, I'm like for instance my most recent project. These tools were really more of like um, I didn't know what needed to be done to actually bring the sequencer, train people and all that. So what are steps to make to establish a genetic sequencing operation in a developing country? So this tool sort of allowed me to map out what I didn't know because it's like for instance I create a work-based structure which is like the work I need to do to complete the project. So it would expose my ignorance, and that was like, okay. Now I need to interview this kind of expert. So that might be useful in that regard. Did that answer your question, Chris?
I think so. Said another way, is it that project management, in this case where there is like a more research oriented thing, there's still other tasks that you can sort of put into project management, like interview people and like figure out how to answer some of the questions that you have. So it sounds like you can fit this in, but there's still a lot of uncertainty with the actual like work or to actually progress on the research.
Yep. May I ask, Chris, what specific kind of research you're talking about?
Um, it's mostly related to like new things happening in our company, and so like we don't quite know how to handle it, and so a lot of the problem is trying to figure out what we want to do. So it's like we don't have a clear outcome that we're aiming for. Part of it is actually trying to figure out what is the best thing to do as our company.
Mhm. In that case, I think the usage of project management is really like the known part of that project. For instance, I imagine you could plan out what you're gonna do to find out, where your exploration. So as you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, interviewing people, for instance, or
Right.
organizing a focus group discussion, or whatever your framework is. There's like I guess a solid part there, and then
Mm-hmm.
the unknown part.
Cool. Thank you. That's really helpful.
Um, and yeah, I think I should add here. So I share here some, what you call this, some recommendations if you're doing deep work instead of expansive work. So I think I should also add here, exploratory. Yeah, I'll suggest some things here, some suggestion for frameworks and how and how. All right. Um, yeah, and also, the tools I introduce here, you don't really use them all the time for all projects. So the bigger the project, the more risks, the more people involved, the more tools you would want to use because like most things in life, this is really a trade-off between time and thoroughness. So, but for this exercise, um, so we will overmanage one project. So whatever project there is, we'll use all the tools for that just for the learning just to get our hands dirty with all the tools, so to get familiar with them. So that's going to be the plan for the next weeks for the those who got the believer plan. Um, yeah, and also this ebook, our book also has these guide questions to help, I guess, extract the lessons from each project. Um, any questions on the second chapter?
No, thanks for that discussion on the exploratory work.
This third chapter is really just an overview of the second part, and what problems um, these tools solve. So these are all the tools I'll be introducing. Actually, I'll be adding more based on the discussion yesterday. Um, yeah, so it's just really a way of like seeing like what do you do as a project manager. And okay, so you figure out the scope, you understand your stakeholders, you create your communications plan based on that, create the project charter. So it's like all these steps, just to it's already there to follow. So it just makes it's like a checklist, makes the work easier. So this is like an overview of um, the second chapter, second part of the book, and this is how I use these tools. Um, well, there are like small projects which I don't use these tools at all. It's like just a to do series of to dos. But for like the things which are like, okay, well, we'll formally make this into a project. I do work. I do the WBS. I do the risk breakdown structure, which is like a a list of risks categorized, and I use risk register, which is like a list of those risks, and then my plans for mitigation and contingency for each of them, and then they are like ordered by how big those risks are. So I'll be going through that in the chapter, and then I only do a project charter when it's like a long-term project or I'm working with a team, because like if you're working with a team, suddenly your work will be a lot of communication, and the charter is like the core of your pitch, like why are we doing this project, how will we do this project, and it's like you have to, it's basically your work to communicate, to get things done by other people. um, yeah, so this is an overview of the second part. Any questions on this third chapter?
For the, if you go down a little bit where you were showing the work breakdown or the image. Yeah, so for example, like you mentioned the project charter being useful when you have a team of people. Do you, will in that chapter will you also discuss like what is the best way to get people on board with that project charter? Like, do you just send them a document, or is it also like there's a certain meeting you have in order to like get everyone to be like, yes, I agree with this and I will commit to doing the work?
Mhm. Yeah, I'll be talking about that or I'll be writing about that in the communications management part. Um, yeah, it's also, you could also tackle that in the team plan chapter.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it depends on really who you're working with. You have to know them. The way I look at it is there are like a high trust organizations and low trust organizations. For instance, between if you're working across organizations, as I use the low trust playbook. You have contracts, you have sign things, and all that. In high trust organizations, it's really like a longer term relationship, and then you're looking after the careers and the reputations of your people. So you're looking at like what will they get out of their project, and that's the conversation I want to have at the beginning before even creating the charter. It's like, it's like, what do you want to get out of this project? Do you want to learn something? What do you want to contribute? um, yeah, that's basically how I approach it, Chris.
Cool, thank you.
This fourth um, chapter is essentially talking about like um, Rome as a tool for um, project management. The main thing here really is like I'm using Rome for project management because it allows me to do multiple projects in just one software. I mean, it's like it's like my second. This is my second brain, so I don't need to switch to different software, and also between like when I'm doing project management versus task management, which is like executing my tasks in the project. So it's like this the daily work of actually like doing the work of the project. So that's the reason why I like Chrome for project management. But it's not ideal for all aspects of project management. For instance, so this is like the ones which I think Chrome is really ideal for. Work-based structure, risk-based structure, creating a project charter. So anything which involves you get a source of ideas and you synthesize a new kind of you know summary or a new synthesis. So that's what I think Rome really shines in. um, the ones which I don't use Rome, or at least I translate what I made in Rome into some other format if I'm working with a team which is not familiar with Rome. For instance, these ones, I normally use these documents to communicate with my team. So, and I haven't worked with a team yet, which is like very adept at using Rome. So, I normally use a spreadsheet for these ones here. And then also there are things which just doesn't make sense with Rome right now. For instance, like things which has to do with numbers. When you're creating your budget, when you're tracking your costs, and also like the traditional project management software like Asana, Basecamp, Trello. I see these things really as teamwork tools. So you're collaborating with people on tasks. So this task is this. You describe it, you talk about it in the software, and then you assign it. You put a time there. So and then you track which ones are completed. So it's really of collaborating on getting tasks done. But project management is much more than that. um this I didn't include this in the our book, but this helped me go through this what you call this helped me think about this, um which where Rome fits in. So these are all the let's see, this is clear. So these are all the different aspects, different kinds of different work of project managers. And the I just tag here which ones work best with Rome. In my experience, this is my opinion. And which ones um, are done better with like for instance, this ones are spreadsheets. This one could be done with Rome or a word processor. So yeah, so you could make use of different tools. But what I mentioned what I mentioned earlier, like the processes that require synthesis coming from different texts, different documents, inputs from people. I think that's where Rome really shines in. And it's also like the just running all your projects in in one uh, in one software. So I'll be talking about that in the chapter on project-driven productivity. I already made a what you call this, a draft about that. You could check it out in Twitter. There's some what you call this. There are some uh, videos there as well. Cool. So that's basically the the plan for this rBook. Any other questions, Krish, Tomo, and Ashwin?
No, this is really great. Thank you.
What's the rough release schedule for the different chapters?
I'm planning to complete one chapter per week, and then so every week I'll be organizing a call like this, and then testing out the chapter. Meaning like the users will apply each chapter for a actual project of theirs, and then I'll help them apply that, and that will also improve the rBook. My estimate is by May we should be done.
Cool. And then is there, like I noticed on, I think the community page, there's, so that you are like wanting people to provide feedback in line, like what's the right way to do that in Rome?
Well, the what you call this? One way is just to add a reaction,
Okay.
and then also so that it's easy to keep track of things. So in the community page, for instance, like for instance, you could just block reference here a a section that you would give feedback on, like something like that, and then it's just feedback here.
And do you want everyone to do it on this same community page, or is there like a different, like everyone has their own page or anything like that?
If you want, you could create your own page. Yeah, because like this one, the setting of this graph is that you couldn't change a block that you don't own.
Okay.
So as long as it's not in the main chapter pages, it's okay. Just tag it with the community tag so that when I look for like the feedback pages, it's easier to find.
Cool. Yeah, this is my first time doing like a multiplayer kind of Rome thing. So, maybe it would be helpful to have like standards guide or something. I don't know if you've thought about that, but
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm also trying to. I mean, this is also my first time. Well, one of the first times I'm doing this. So, they have so many new features with multiplayer. The last time we did this, we didn't have this colored bullets yet, indicating who wrote this. Yeah, and just gives happy to receive suggestions as well as how we could do this. We're all sort of figuring this out as we go along.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This is just such a cool way to write a book and read a book and hopefully learn some project management. So I appreciate you doing it.
Yeah, thank you so much for the feedback.
Will it be this time every week?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that. Would it be better if like this is like I could do also like 3 hours earlier than like right now? Would it be better for you?
I'm on the Pacific Standard Time, so that would be in the middle of my work day, so that would probably be tough. This time actually works well for me, but I don't know about other people.
This time work. Yeah.
Yes, Ashwin, is this would this work for you this time?
Yeah, this works for me. Yeah.
Tomo, is this okay with you?
Yeah, I'm still seeing if I'm gonna sign up. I do more agile workflows.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to see if this book will fit more of my agile workflow, or if this is more, because it's much more smaller scale projects constantly with a lot of teamwork. That's why I was curious to see if I could implement that in Rome somehow.
Yeah.
Without making it too difficult.
Well, someone actually, I I don't know if you've seen that, but there was an impressive implementation of Agile in Rome. I forget his name, but I could link to that if. Did you see that, Tomo?
No, I did not.
Um, are you in the Slack?
Yeah, like with my Rome, I've been pretty hands off right now. This is the first time I've actually jumped into anything on Rome. Slowly trying to see if it could fit my workflow.
Okay. No, because like I was gonna send you that
Sure.
that link, or just could you chat your email address or something, or
I'm in the. I joined your Slack channel. I'm in there.
cool. I'll just tag you there.
Okay. Awesome.
I'd also love to see that link. What is the Slack channel that I should join?
It's project management. It's in the Rome Research Slack in the China's project management.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I would love to see that link.
Cool. All right. Any other questions or comments, suggestions?
No, thanks for doing this. I'm just excited to be trying it out.
Yeah, I'm also super excited to do this. This is going to be my first book, so I appreciate all the support. And yeah, looking forward to the next weeks.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. I'll
Thank
see you
you.
around.
Take care.
Thank you.